Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome back to the Nasty Gram RPG podcast. This is episode 3 of One Shot at a Monster.
Feeling it too hard is the poison to the heart of a cynic redemption. Now I'm waking to pain.
All right, we are back. Welcome back to Nasty Gram. I'm Josh. I'm your dungeon master, and I'm joined by...
Hi, I am Dean, and I'm playing Sir Adric Windmere the Knight.
Hi, I'm John. I'm playing Dr. Merrick Hoffman, the Scholar.
I'm Matt, playing Kieler Ulrsen, the Bone Carver Ranger.
Dun, 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 dun.
And I am Jake, and I am playing the Arctogrim. No, not really.
Jake, you're going to ruin it.
Avery Colburn, the nobleman.
Dope. All right. So as we left off through our first couple eps here, we basically wove the backstory of this group of adventurers getting together and now being seated at the end of a large, smoky, and warm, pleasantly warm beer hall in the the town of Bergenheim. After facing down a travel and meeting up with this Kieler who seemed to identify and pledge himself in some way as guide to Dr. Hoffman. And the first time the four of you stood together, not moments later, you were attacked by a group of four seeming berserker-type fighters and an old woman, shaman, with great powers. And they laid the herd out pretty good, didn't they, Dean?
Yeah, I took 59, if you're asking. I have 41, so do the math.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. The old woman went down, but Kieler Ulrsen discovered that she was not, in fact, dead, but using some sort of shamanistic magic to enter stasis, brought her back to the ship, determined, we're trying to determine what to do when she came to, and in a struggle, she, after calling out to you, Kieler, about not letting him find it, she took her own life through her powers. So here you are. Dr. Hoffman has a variety of papers out, some of his research and notes, and a new empty scroll. There are 2 words at the top, Octogrim, and what do we call them?
Zealots.
The Zealots.
Zealots.
So, what do we know? Hoffman looks around at the group with his quill ready.
We know that we are attacked on sight by these zealots without provocation, that they were fighting with some sort of frenzied motivation.
And they called you out, did they not? Your crest.
It appeared that that's the case once we got the shaman woman back to the boat.
Crest of the Black Stone.
I think it is at this point where I will consider covering my heraldry.
Probably a good idea.
Let me take this opportunity. I had mentioned at the start of the first app that wanted to play with this little house rule, a little tweak on the inspiration, and then got a little too busy trying to figure out these scenes to really use it much. I think I threw one to Jake. I want to throw another to Dean for your role-playing of Sir Edric Windmere's courage in that combat. I think was pretty spot on. So take a point of inspiration. And again, I want you guys to feel free to point those out when they are used by other people. Remember, they can be used or can be based off the motivation, the merit, the flaw, or the bond you guys have, and they can be used on any roll to add a exploding D6. That means if you roll a 6, you roll it again, and point them out for each other or whatever. So anybody have any else they want to nominate?
I got one. I'll nominate Matt. I thought
Me?
Kieler, his flaw is, I'm looking it up here, dismissive of the strength of outsiders. When I suggested we follow her through the woods, he was basically like, there's no fucking way you could do that.
He called you a fool, if I recall.
Perfect. I like that. So yeah, we'll try to keep these pretty liquid. I want this, like I said, you guys don't have a lot of magic items. You have, relatively, compared to most D&D games, limited magic. So this is kind of the story juice, the thing to make you look a little extra heroic. You can throw them around a bit. So don't be shy. Getting back to it, we just point out the Order of the Blackstone, and it's been mentioned. And Dean, you've mentioned this guard Karmakos. Tell me a little bit about Karmakos and maybe the pantheon of your people of this kingdom.
No problem.
Easy peasy.
So they are twin gods, often referred to colloquially as just the twins. You may at times hear Aedric saying things like, by the twins. He's referring to Karmakos, Karmakos, and of course, Elodren, Elodren. Karmakos is closely resembled to the more martial endeavors, strength, honor, courage, things of this nature, much of which the Order of the Blackstone has been based upon in years past. And we find a lot of we value these are important values to us. But as we pray to the twins, we also understand that Elodren's philosophies are quite important to us, and his doctrines, which are temperance, justice, and peace. Now, in the modern world, and one of the problems with the Order of the Blackstone is the fact that Karmakos is sort of Old Testament, versus New Testament, kind of fallen out of style a bit. People are more interested in temperance, justice, and peace as war has not gripped our shores for some time. And in fact, we may have gotten to a place where most people don't consider Karmakos that much. Maybe the kids still fancy him a bit when they're out playing around and things of that nature, but long story short, Aedric still considers the twins important to him, with a very much a focus on Karmakos. What he's not thrilled about, much like the Order of the Blackstone, is how people seem to be not considering Karmakos very important these days and more focusing on Elodren, which of course is important, but how are you going to maintain temperance, justice, and peace without strength, honor, and courage?
I like it. All right. So done with my forcing some asides. Let's get back to it. You guys are discussing what you know.
Right. So the Blackstone is a problem. Hoffman grabs a glass, and he puts his gauntleted hand over it, and it just starts to emit light, and he kind of sets it aside next to his scroll and lets it go.
Matt, as Hoffman is talking, Kieler thinks back, and the others heard, but even to John, the language is a little different, but these two different elven tongues. But to you, it was very clear what she said. Her last words, "Don't let him find it." Arctogrim is never called an it by your people. Arctogrim is him or he.
Did only Matt hear that?
Matt is the only one that I fully understood.
I heard it, but probably without any context of
Yep.
what the...
Yep.
Can we assume you guys have kind of told us what they were saying?
The gist of it, but maybe Matt hasn't
I
pointed out.
probably told you what they said in a more direct sense, but
Yep.
not what it means.
It's kind of on reflection now as you're talking about it, Matt, that really sticks into your head.
She spoke of it.
Octogrim, I assume.
No,
It.
him.
What do you mean?
Arctogrim is him. It is not.
Well, the gender of Octogrim, while in the stories is referred to as a him, it perhaps may sound weird, right? But it may be.
It is not a story.
Oh, I know.
He is killing my people.
Yeah, and think beyond, let's say in the linguistics of your people. This isn't like a pronoun game. Let's say it is very much like anything with even the breeze. If the breeze feels lively, you would give it a gender in the Northern Elven tongue. To say it is like a thing, an
Very
object.
specific.
Yes. So anything with any kind of life or drive of its own is always a he or a she.
Mm-hmm.
It is very much...
For the sake of the specifics
Sure.
of this.
It is very much an inanimate thing.
100%. That
Without spirit.
Matt, you are 100% certain that is not like a mistake someone would linguistically do in your tongue.
I see.
and were canceled.
Kieler, the half-elves that we encountered, are they of your tribe?
No.
I have some more questions about that myself. Kieler, I've only just met you. And these people seem to have it in for you as well, and we just met you. That means that whatever these zealots considered us, you appear to be corrupted by our influence because you're as much of a target as we were. That seems very serious. Tell me about this.
It seems you are the only target. I was crossfire.
I don't...
They would have attacked with or without me. But to them, it seems I am one of you. Outsider, she said.
Have you been called this before?
No, that is you.
Just a background piece. We've only just met this man, so Adric's not quite sure about this man just yet.
No.
Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. I mean, there's not much of a doubt that
He was attacked.
you're exchanging mortal blows,
Of course.
and that he felled this woman. Maybe in the back of your head, some of the magic, but he's the one that pointed
Absolutely,
it out. It just doesn't
absolutely.
add up to. But this is certainly a strange culture to you. And as you say this, it's very clear that you were the ones that were attacked. You were in port for
Not long at all.
less than 2 hours.
Kieler, you attacked them as well, which means you must have sensed something wrong with them. Obviously, the people of Unvar, or this particular village, Bergenheim, this particular Isle of Bergen, I'm assuming this is not something you see often. What's corrupting these people?
Him.
Is it possible that they would want to protect him? Have you ever heard of anything like this, Hoffman?
I can't say. There are stories. Maybe there are rumors, yes. It's that what is best word? He was worshipped. He have cult, yes.
I see.
Well, as far as my studies went, there is no direct mention of a cult, a following. From what I can see, he is some... You may not say he is an it, but there is some evidence that this creature, the Artengrim, is perhaps a creation of the Elder. And with that creation, the powers that the Elder were able to wield are beyond some of our comprehension. It could be possible that this creature has some sway. The magic that it can wield, if it is innate, built with that magic, well, it could do many terrible things.
Adric looks over to Avery, assuming Avery might think something a little different.
I say, well, let us look at their goal. Their intentions were to kill Sir Windmere. I gesture to him. They knew him by his heraldry. They knew he was coming. Yet that is impossible, except by some divination. Sir Windmere, you brought us here because of your visions, your dreams.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a bit more about those? Perhaps there is a secret there that might unlock a bit of this mystery.
Windmere runs his hand over his mouth and beard in what perhaps Avery would notice as a bit of a nervous gesture. Well, it's the talk of this it that troubles me. I've had these dreams that are, well, of him. A great burning white flame only repelled by what I can describe as a shield. And I'm starting to believe that this it is in fact that.
You believe it is the shield?
I have a feeling, if we are to believe, as Hoffman has labeled them quite intelligently, I gather, zealots of this Arctilgrim, and as Kieler here is confirming that perhaps they worship him, then my guess is that if there is something that can stop his power in the form of an it, then it's possible that this shield, which withstood flames, turned flames away, that they would not want us anywhere near it.
When you see him in these visions, where is he?
Difficult to say.
Dean, you've never seen him.
Right.
You've seen the flames,
The burning.
the item you've seen, and you have seen something of its location.
Yes. I can't say that I've ever seen him in these visions. Just the great burning flames, the land engulfed. In the center of the fire was a crest, a shield, and these flames simply passed around it. I recall the shield never even got warm. Some sort of magic indeed.
Dr. Hoffman, could this magic be this shield? Could it be something that was created by one of those? And I point to your scabbard where you keep your weird crystal.
Hoffman says, yes, it is possible that this shield is a weapon or device built by the Elder. There is something else. I kind of flip through some of the scrolls I have open and kind of trace my hand down a passage. I was doing some experiments with the crystal and with some looking into some of the archives of excavations of the ruin. The Tathlazine crystals, some of them were removed from a cylindrical hall. They were arrayed in a pattern, and it had come to light that once these were removed, a creature appeared out of nowhere. It slain many researchers, and they had to send a party down to destroy it. And reading through some of the tales of the Arctilgrim, I think what we're doing, what we've done, wielding these powers, these crystals, digging them up, it may be weakening some sort of field containing the creature.
You have all heard, all of you, the legends of Arctilgrim and the reason in most of the fables between a punishment being in hells, but most of it comes, the commonality is this unquenchable fire. That is what has trapped him, and that's what's forced Arctilgrim to bury himself in the ice. So the stories go.
And what you say about that shield, something else flips through more scrolls, and there's like clearly looks like a tail, and it says, he points to it, an old ancient scroll, and says, and here it describes the gods themselves handing down gifts to fight the Arctilgrim.
Yes. This is something I felt in my vision, Doctor. I felt as if perhaps this shield was forged for some sort of champion, or many, perhaps for champions. It's difficult to say. But perhaps to aid us. Is it divine?
It's possible, although I'm not sure. The gods themselves, they haven't shown themselves to walk amongst us and hand out shields and swords before. But perhaps the threat of this Arctilgrim and the elders themselves posed upon the divinity There are some that say that these crystals and the ruins among them, these elders, they brandish their power in front of gods, and perhaps their ruin was the divine.
Indeed.
But that's just conjecture. But I think with this information, this octogrim, normal swords, normal arrows, normal fire will not hurt it. Must be magical or divine, perhaps. But I don't think it is fully free. I think it is still trapped.
I see. I wonder if these zealots that attacked us, I wonder if they're in the process of attempting to free it. Or him. Pardon my misstep, Kieler.
Or perhaps they're warning us to not free it. Him.
Interesting. Do you think they would...
I don't know. They seemed more concerned with it than him. Perhaps their real concern is to make sure that that shield doesn't fall into the hands of outsiders.
If that's the case, then we must be close to this shield. It must be in this temporal plane of ours. If they're here, trying to keep us away from it, we may need to seek this shield out before we continue into the wild to find this Arctogrim. Kieler, what is your opinion of these zealots? Do you think they were trying to keep us... Do you think they are trying to help this Arctogrim come forth? Or do you think they are trying to keep it trapped?
They seem to fear that you would find it. If they follow him and you find a shield, you say?
I believe so.
That could be a weapon against him? I think perhaps they're trying to protect.
Then perhaps they have their own vision. Perhaps that shaman had her own vision of us finding it, which is what brought her here. Think about this, man. We arrived and we were attacked with great haste. There's no way there is any information or spies among us. I imagine we're all trustworthy here. They knew we were coming, and they were prepared for us to come, and then that makes me believe that perhaps they had their own vision. They've done their own research, call it what you will. I think they fear us finding it because they know we will find it.
There's another possibility. Perhaps it isn't the shield, but the place where the shield is. You see, these half-elves, they hoard this magic. They want to keep it away from us. And
Keeler's sitting right there.
And Hoffman.
not you guys. You guys are the good ones.
Oh, no.
I'm talking about the other half-elves. The ones on the other side of town.
This is how they've always been. And this magic, it comes from the elders, yes? From their places of power. Let us assume that this shield did not come handed down from the gods, but was crafted by someone, much like yourself, Doctor, in a place where this magic might still exist. I heard rumors in the capital before I left, did a bit of my own research, and I believe that there may actually be a ruin here from the elder races.
His eyes light up when you say that. A ruin. That could mean...
I have no scholarly proof.
Well...
There are many ruins here. The fjords and islands. There are many things hidden amongst the rocks, covered by the flows of the mountain.
But an elder ruin will have crystals. If it is untouched, then we find it. Well, there'll be a new age.
I do not know anything of the crystals.
You think back to what you said, John, what Merrick said about the weapons that you wield and what they could do to Arctogrim, not much. With a source of fresh crystals, untapped into powers, that would be a different story.
With my crystal, my power, I can maybe, emphasis on maybe, give one of you a sword that can perhaps do harm. But with 10, 15, 20 crystals, I could craft you all a suit of armor, weapons, bows, crossbows that do all sorts of things.
Yes, keep talking.
I like this weapon talking hard over here.
We need weapons, Doctor. It is imperative that we find these crystals.
Josh.
You believe?
Can I make a, perception check to see if there's anybody around here listening to this conversation?
Yes, do so.
Now that I've seen the good doctor get so excited about something, and they're going off about crystals and ruins. If there's anybody, just never mind. I rolled a nat 1.
Okay. I'll keep in consideration that you're sort of that's on your mind now.
He's boloing. You believe, Doctor, that our weapons are useless against him,
Yes.
which means we're all dead men.
Well, mine isn't. I kind of chuckled. But yours, yes.
Which means we are all dead men. He says it again. Unless, of course, you believe that these ruins contain crystals that can imbue
I
our...
like Sir Windmere.
Yes.
I kind of look at Kieler looking around at the room, and then
Is this not great news? Adric seems confused.
I look around the room as well. Perhaps it is best.
I start reaching for my sword because I don't know what's happening.
Windmere.
Yes.
It's all right. Just it's perhaps not best to speak of this in public.
Very well.
You look around. It's there's a growing crowd. This is just this one long hall. There's tables kind of scattered throughout, and then kind of in the center, there's this kind of massive stone open fireplace open on each side, and that's kind of where the main socializing. Like, there's no bar, so basically, like, instead of sitting around the bar, people kind of sit on these stools and on benches around these big fireplaces, and that's where the boisterous. So you guys are kind of in the most quiet part of it. And right now, there's nobody that's sitting in the next couple closest tables. So you're good to kind of exercise caution, but look around. There's nobody within easy earshot unless you get really loud and animated.
Without them, this is a doomed expedition. Even with them, it's potentially a doomed expedition.
Sure.
Which means we need to find... Adric starts to lower his voice. We need to find these ruins. Will you know them by sight? Wait. I grab his arm, and I take him and start dragging him outside.
What? Where are we going?
Stay here, you men. I start looking at the horizon. Looking for mountains. I look to the north. I look to the east. I look to the west. I turn and look to the south.
Do either of you two, Kieler and Avery, do you follow him outside?
Yeah, I'm following.
All right. So you look around. Bergenheim is on this around this naturally formed bay, basically formed by this old volcano, where
Like
the
a
other
basin.
part of the volcano, the peak that rises up, it basically dominates the eastern skyline. To the north lies the piers of the tribesmen, and just off. Well, it's dark now. I guess it's night. Let's say the weather's blown off though, and it's clear skies. And the moon is almost full, not quite. In the distance, you can see a couple silhouettes of some of the closer islands, but that's all you can make out.
Okay.
But might be a local who knows a little bit more.
Josh, I stay inside and finish my drink.
I'm staying, finishing my mead.
I point to the mountains and I say, perhaps out there. Look, do you see it, Hoffman?
Mountain?
In my vision, I saw 3 peaks Now, those twin peaks could be a sign from the twins that perhaps beyond
Sure.
there will be 3 peaks. I believe that 3 peaks, I look around as we're outside, I believe that 3 peaks will point us the way to the ruins where you will find your crystals.
Maybe you could be a little more specific. 3 peaks.
Matt, when he says 3 peaks, there's probably a few of these islands that maybe could be formed like that, but the significance of what he's talking about makes you think of one in particular, a very notable one called Tregkulen. It's the 3 peaks are almost perfectly arrayed, with one reaching directly up in a triangle formation, basically. And they're all steep and lead directly into the water. The furthest to the north, the tallest, and then one sort of to the southeast of medium height and a little bit lower to the southwest. So forming this triangular island of stone reaching into the sky. It's very significant it's very notable in its appearance, and it's very significant to your people as a place to be avoided completely. So if you want to give Dean that description, that's going to sound about exactly like your vision.
Understood.
Yeah. It is triangle.
Yeah.
Biggest in the north.
Yes. That's right, Kieler.
I know. It is bad.
But you know, you know what I'm speaking of.
Matt, I'm going to send you wait for 30 seconds or so. I'm going to send you a description so you can give it instead of just parroting me.
I slap Hoffman on the back in a joyous happiness, exuberance.
You say this is bad?
Of course, it's dangerous. There are zealots and monsters, Hoffman. We're gonna need you. We're gonna need those books, those crystals, as you said. What will you describe it to me, Kieler, if you can? Once you get your text message.
So I'm waiting for the download of the gods. This island is shit service, though.
The gods, they're on 2G.
The twins a bit stingy with internet service.
The land, we call it Tregkulen. It is a cursed land. It is impassable by sea. No boats. No one survives. Flames blow out. You cannot make fire. Inhospitable. Ghosts. Gods. There is something there. It is evil.
I would imagine that I look over my shoulder as I've learned. Crystals of the power that Hoffman speaks of would not simply just be in a forgotten city where passersby can walk through. If we're to find crystals, like described by Hoffman, they're not going to just be there for us to scoop up easily. This sounds like precisely the place where they would be.
Well, perhaps. I mean,
Ghosts be damned.
the crystals found in the capital were only really found when a mining expedition collapsed, and, well, it's not like it's very difficult to get to those ruins. But in any case, you're right in a way that perhaps something is still there. There may be magic there, but there may be also guardians.
So our choices are pursue the Octogrim with weapons that don't hurt it and be killed, or continue to Tregkulen to find these potential crystals and die in the process. But with a greater upside than if we simply die fighting a creature we cannot hurt.
Or,
Go home to warm bed.
yes.
That's a third option.
Or to merely see the Arctogrim and study it don't necessarily need to I
look
trail off, look at Kieler.
I look at
in the mirror.
Keeler's face as he shoots beams of death through him, suggesting we're just going to wave hi to it.
Hey.
Are you guys still, you're still outside, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Jake's the only one not.
Yeah, inside, Josh.
So Jake, back inside, burly man, bearded man, walks over to you, apron on. He grabs a couple of the empty pitchers and says, "We need anything else? Looks like your friends are leaving you."
I point to an unopened keg of beer, and I say, "I'll buy that keg. Bring it over, place it on the table. Anyone who wants a drink, take a drink. I was almost murdered today, and I intend to celebrate being alive." I say that loud enough for people around to hear.
All right, a couple of people have started to sit at some of the near tables, and they kind of do a double take. He puts his hands on his hips, kind of looks a little unbelievingly, looks you up and down again, looks at your armor and that beautiful fucking hair. And he says,
Lovely mouth.
"Sure about that, my friend. That's a full half barrel. That'll cost you 20 kings. That's the good stuff."
Oh, it's not worth more than 12, but I appreciate your entrepreneurial spirit. I give him the gold.
Eyes go wide. You just see you stack
He's going to retire.
these coins on the table, and he kind of turns around and he says, "Well, Horgan, you're going to be drinking, I'm sure. Why don't you give me a goddamn hand?" And goes over and grabs the keg, brings it over, sits it on a bench near your table, and taps it. And suddenly, a lot of these individuals are over by the fire seem to start making their way over. There's a new popular spot in the hall.
Do we hear a ruckus inside?
Yeah, you guys sort of have a long silence after Kieler discusses Trig Coolin. And then you start to hear some noise, definitely a ruckus, but a happy sounding ruckus.
I say perhaps we should check with our financier on this expedition decision. And then I kind of turn around and walk back into the bar to the scene of drunkards slobbering over my my scrolls and books.
By the time you guys come in, I'm well into retelling the tale of our harrowing battle, with lots of embellishment. But as people are pouring their drinks and getting their drinks, I say, "A toast to being alive, and not being murdered by bloodthirsty band
Avery,
of ruffians."
My scrolls. I run over and I start trying to roll them up.
Definitely got some ale spattered.
This is 60 years old, Avery. And this
Josh.
one, I don't even know how old this one is.
Jake, go ahead and take an inspiration to be perceived as a hero. I like that.
Nice.
I on the way back into the bar, I kind of maybe to Keeler's chagrin, sort of wrap my arm around his shoulders as we're kind of moving way back, and I go, "This is great news, Kieler." And I tell him, "I'm going to buy you an ale." And I look into the bar.
You walk in
Apparently, Avery's already handled that.
to see Lord Avery Colburn seem to be using a mostly empty sack as apparently probably one of the barbarians as he demonstrates his killing thrust downward into the ground. About 30, maybe 35 men are gathered around. There's still, a handful of some of the old timers or some of the grumpier ones sitting over by the fire at the other end of the hall. But basically everybody else that was here has kind of made their way over. Looks like a lot of sailors, tradesmen, maybe some locals. There's only maybe a couple other half-elven tribesmen in the mix. Almost all are humans.
I say to Keeler, "Do you think the zealots will come?"
I say, "Here's the real hero."
The crowd just kind of finished a cheers. So as you say that, their attention wrapped on you. They turn and look at the fairly heroic cut of Sir Adric, and
Yes.
you hear a shout from the back, and a familiar voice goes, "Oi, that's the one! They must have killed a dozen of them pointy ears."
I sort of put my hands up in a
As I'm like furling my books and stuff together, I hear him say that and kind of furrow my brow.
I told you I saw them in the alley.
So as soon as the attention gets drawn to him, I'm gonna kind of do a little spin move out from under his arm and slink off into the corner of the room to try to avoid attention.
All right, and Windmere, having a bit of charisma about him himself, and maybe once upon a time being a leader of men, will not accept this all for himself. And I say, "Hey, quiet, everyone, quiet. It's important to know that we are only as good as the men we travel with." I raise my cup to Avery. I raise my cup to Hoffman, and I say, "And that one in the corner." I raise my cup to Kieler, and I say, "I would be a dead man in that muddy, frozen dirt if it wasn't for the efforts of all three of these men. Hear, hear!" I raise my fucking mug up.
Josh, I'm gonna let people drink quite a bit before I start talking a little more serious. But after a few more drinks and telling the story a couple more times, I say, "We have a real problem here. There's a real problem in this town. You have a gang. Did you know that? You have people preying on people coming off of ships. They're tribesmen. They all wear the same brand. I carve it into the side of the keg."
Jake, I like your setup for this. Give me an insight check with advantage. I think that's a pretty fucking hefty duty skill for you.
Yeah.
And you've been keeping your eye out as well, Matt. So give me a perception check from back where you are.
Adric's a bit in his cups.
Adric's glory days.
He's probably at this point sitting at the bar, just sort of like, "Grr."
Josh, I got a 25.
Hoping he doesn't get killed tonight.
Oh, Jesus.
I had a 16.
16. All right. Matt, will you, I think the main thing you notice, and you're not exactly sure what you attribute it to, but the two other, so I'm going to kind of use the term tribesmen to refer to these half elves, just to be more, specific.
Makes
so when
sense.
I say tribesmen, I'm talking about the half elves of the north. So the two tribesmen that are there that did seem like they kind of came over to be a part of this, they don't seem to be partaking of the festivities as much, and aren't exactly raising their glasses with much glee, to say the least. You don't recognize either of them. Jake, when you kind of go through all this and point out the when you draw that brand, one of the men who was kind of the closest in, you see him, his eyes kind of widen a bit, and he had been fairly enthused, and he sort of like the cat that just ate the canary kind of looked to him. Pretty subtle in a crowd. I mean, it would not be easy to notice, but this is kind of what you were setting him up for, and it's within a few seconds he seems to kind of gather himself and at least half-heartedly going back to raising his glass. But you definitely notice that. From the look of him, he's either a sailor or at the minimum works the docks, is what you would say. Youngish, maybe no more than 25, and a human.
I'd say, yes, this is a plight on our city, on our docks specifically. But don't worry. We're going to stop all of them. Aren't we?
Avery.
Sir
Avery.
Windmere?
I'm sorry.
We're going to put a stop to these ruffians.
Of course, whatever you think is the right thing to do, Avery.
It's funny. I mean, the crowd, you kind of get the crowd eating out of your hand overall. But the lack of recognition of it's clear that most of these guys have no idea what you're talking about and are kind of just enjoying the story. So, it starts to, unless you kind of keep orating, they start to kind of break down more to, they're still staying around, but, talking to each other and whatever. The performance seems to have sort of ended.
When people start breaking off into smaller groups, I'm going to make my way to the guy that looked a little scared.
All right. You see him. He was actually seems to be making his way away from the group about as quick as anybody else. Not beelining, but you see him moving away along one side of the entrance. It's like when people come in, there's just a bunch of hooks, and people drop their sacks, hang up their cloaks, whatever. Most people, it's very common that you're coming in dripping wet and gross, so things are hanging. It seems like he's going over to grab his belongings. You're going to go after him, Jake?
Yeah.
Okay. He reaches up and he grabs a kind of oiled cloth cloak off a hook, throws it over his shoulders, and turns to look towards the door. And you're standing right there, and his eyes go just as wide. Once again, he kind of takes a step back and he goes, my lord, yeah, thanks for the tale and for the ale. It's appreciated.
You've seen the brand.
What brand? I don't know. I don't know what you're speaking of. But I need to get back. I have a watch at the docks.
Which ship?
No, for the dock master. Just look over the piers.
Look, friend, I can tell you've seen that brand and it scares you. There's more to it. More to it than I've said, right?
No, I didn't know anything. Listen.
I look around quickly and I say, you don't need to be implemented in any of this, but I need to know where I can find them.
There's another hall. They rent rooms. It's called the Crossroads. We sometimes go there. It's a little bit more of a mix of them and us, and sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's a little dangerous. And it was maybe a 10-day back or so, and we were there and was talking to a couple of the tribesmen, and one of them he asked if about ships coming in, new ships coming in. He keeps his eyes keeps darting towards Sir Windmere as he's talking.
They asked about a man described like him.
The crest. I haven't even collected yet. He didn't make it sound like he was going to attack. I had no idea. I'm sorry.
I put a hand on his shoulder and I smile and I say, you didn't know.
No. But it was
How much did they offer you?
5 kings.
But you haven't collected it.
No.
I'm going to give him 5 kings.
Looks down at it. I didn't think much of the brand. He leaned forward. I saw it under his tunic over his heart.
I say, they can't be trusted. They weren't going to pay you. They would have killed you and left you in an alleyway. I can be trusted. If you hear anything else, we're on the Frost Fox.
I lied. I don't have watch tonight, but I do take watch sometimes. I know where the Frost Fox is. Was the Frost Fox?
Yeah.
That's right.
I know where it's tied up, but if I hear anything, and if they come after me, I don't know.
If they come after you, you tell them where they can find us.
Eyes kind of go wide in a different way as he looks at you. Yes, of course, sir, my lord. He closes his hand around the coins. He says, thank you. I'm sorry. And he
you didn't know. I kind of pat him on the back as he's leaving.
He looks back a couple times and kind of smiles as he walks out the door. I can't wait till the end of the arc when I reveal that was Arctogrim. No. In disguise. I'm just kidding. All right.
Look, Avery, do you think it was quite, as I'm packing my things away, do you think it was quite a good idea to incite an angry mob against all the half-elves in this town?
I seem generally surprised that you think that's what I did.
Let's we'll jump ahead. Let's say another hour or two goes by. Most of most of that cask is taken care of. People are having a good drink on it. It's still probably half full of the barrel, but everybody has full glasses, and most people are kind of back around the fire. You guys sort of have that corner of the room to yourselves again. There, you do have, like, on top of the table, there's actually a bunch of kind of scattered gifts. There's a horn of a whale, like a narwhal, section that's carved. There's some scrimshaw. There's some kind of new leathers. It seems like, some of the craftsmen that appreciate what you did, a few of them threw some trinkets. I mean, with some value to them, but some of it's just a good local representation of things. But that's sitting there. Other than that, you guys sort of have some privacy to yourself again.
I say, I'm sorry, Doctor. I honestly didn't think it would get to that. I mean, I wasn't talking about all half-elves. I was talking about the ones that attacked us.
You may not realize, but it can be hard for us, Avery. Many of your friends in court, they don't make much distinction between us.
Well, my apologies. But my goal was to learn more about the ones that attacked us. They seem to be part of some sort of organization. And I didn't learn much, but I did find out how they knew we were here so quickly. They were paying off dockhands to report on sightings of him. And I point to Windmere.
Hardly magical means.
Me? I turn and look at Avery.
Jig, that's true. They were, but he did not report that back.
Right. They've been...
Unless somebody else did first.
They've been looking for at least a 10-day. They anticipated our arrival. Josh, would that mean... How long did it take us to get here?
5 days, maybe. From the northernmost port. Let's say, we don't have to lay out the whole geography, but I mean, let's say I would say, a couple 10 days has passed since Dean first found you, and kind of brought this out. It took a little bit for the ball to get rolling, but it was about 5 days of sailing from the northern port. Matt, you've been in town about a 10-day yourself.
Well, regardless of how it seems, whether it be they were paid off or by some other divination, they knew enough to know we were coming. Where did they get that insight from? How did they know we were coming? The only one who knew was Kieler. He seems trustworthy to me. What do you say? I look at Hoffman.
Certainly trustworthy, but if they have access to magics, perhaps something spoke to them.
Magic, divinity, whatever it is, they knew.
Or the creature itself knew.
I mean, being tipped off, definitely possible. But nobody, not even Merrick and Avery knew anything about this about the shield. Nobody, Dean has, Sir Adric, has he told a soul about those visions specifically?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I told Avery first, and Hoffman just some of what I've told him. I'm assuming leading up to us getting to that table, we would have spoke a bit, but he's not. He doesn't run around talking about that kind of stuff. He's already concerned with the reputation. He's not going to then say, "Oh, hey, by the way, capital people, guess what I learned."
I say, well, it didn't seem like many others in here knew much about the Burning Mountain. I didn't hear much talk about it.
If this is the case, then this is very serious to this group of people who are hired that you've uncovered, Avery. We must consider ourselves in hostile lands, no offense, Kieler. Until we can ensure that is not the case, we must be very cautious. Adric slides his mug of ale away from him.
After the first 7.
He also spoke of a wine hall where more locals tend to congregate. Perhaps Kieler and Hoffman, perhaps you could go there and see if you can learn anything.
I'd be willing, but I must say I'm sure I stand out as much as you do as an outsider.
Yeah, well, you're all the same to him.
Avery makes no distinction.
I
I can't, man, I just want to keep giving him insight for culturally insensitive. He's so good at it.
it's so easy. So I say, well, this group, the Burning Mountain, they want to protect something. Yes, we know that. Perhaps this shield. But their symbol, the mountain. Is that what you went outside to look for?
Yes, a three-peaked mountain to be precise. Something known as Churgkulin. That's what Kieler named it.
A three-peaked
We'll
mountain?
say Kieler kind of, we'll say he goes through kind of the same, he gives you the same details, so he doesn't have to say it again because you weren't out there for that. Jake.
Death, ghosts, etc.
And
Curse.
now, do you think this place is where Octogrim is?
We believe the crystals are there, Avery.
No.
And
The crystals, from what I learned,
Or at least in
before
that
we left
direction.
the capital, there's a poet, the great Coricus.
oh,
He wrote an epic ballad of a place described as where the moon meets the land, a great shelf.
Matt, once again, your pointy ears perk up at what Jake just said. You are certain that is not Trekulin, nothing like it. You're equally certain because some of that same poetic language is used for this place, and I'm sending you a little bit of a nastygram for you to let them know.
I say it's also, I look at Sir Windmere and I say it's also described as the oldest of the brother places. Do you think that could be a reference to the twins?
yes.
Perhaps a holy ground? If in fact this shield was passed down by Eladrin, maybe that would be where it is.
It's quite possible it was. I don't know if it would have been Elodrin or Karmokos, but I have all the faith in the world that the twins are responsible for depositing this weapon or this shield.
Well, then it would stand to reason that we would find it in the place described as the brother's place.
Indeed. I did not think of Corvus. What's the poet's name again? I look at Avery. I didn't read
Corvus.
much. Corvus.
I say that like obviously. Come on.
I did not read much poetry, I'm afraid. But I understand that he was inspired by the twins himself.
Say again. This shelf? Brother's place?
The great shelf where the moon meets the land. The oldest of the brother places.
Yes. That is a place of great power for my people. On the new moon, the council meets. All the villages send representatives. That is how we knew Hoffman would come.
Yeah, Matt, it is a extremely, important place. It's not exactly, I don't know if you would call it sacred. It's not like holy ground. It's just, it's important. It's so important because of what happens there. And it is this place of power for your people. It's certainly not anywhere you can just stroll into. I mean, it would be like, this,
Gotta go to the Forbidden Palace.
yeah, it's in the Forbidden Palace, or it's underneath the White House.
Wait a moment.
So then we have two locations worth investigating, but the question is, which holds the shield and which holds the octogrim?
And which holds the crystals?
I believe the crystals are somewhere near this shelf. Is it a plateau?
Matt, yes, it's
You will go neither.
Excuse me?
I said, you will go neither.
I look to Hoffman and I say, how much are we paying him?
Well, the discussion of payment didn't really necessarily come up. I think it's more of a quest, right, Kieler?
Kieler, listen.
It is prophecy.
Yes, and well, this shelf, where the brothers place, if it is divine, to me that means the elder magic isn't there. The elder magic is not divine magic. It is of their race. They created it or had it or, I don't know, stole it, let's say. But I don't think it is divine. And if there are more crystals, more power, they would have found it, I would imagine.
You're not sure they would have.
Mm.
I mean, as from what you know, because you've investigated the elder races pretty thoroughly, researched, the tribesmen and the ice elves have essentially zero interest in the elder.
Yeah. I think I kind of look back in my bag and I pull out, like, it's kind of like a architectural drawing book, and I kind of flip through some pages, and there are some drawings of the elder ruins, and I kind of splay them out in front of Kieler. And I say, any of these look familiar? Kind of flip through some like houses and some like looks like, marketplaces, that kind of thing, but they all have specific designs, like kind of Celtic knotty type stonework.
Matt, do you think Keeler is ever? I mean, he's not obviously of the council. Has he ever been there? Is it something that you think he would have seen?
Yeah, I'd say he's been there.
Okay. In that case, like some of the, nothing looks familiar when he's showing you, like there are these kind of drawings of like, this is what, the ruins look like. But then when it gets to the geometry, when it's sort of like, it's more the shapes, more ruins that you can't even make out that they're ruins. It almost looks like a natural, so far faded to the point of looking like a part of the landscape. Suddenly, yes.
I think
the plateau itself, the meeting place itself, resembles some of these geometric shapes he's pointing out.
I kind of point at a like this overall drawing. This, I think, is some sort of garden for a noble house, kind of like a rock garden. They are arranged. You can see
This here.
You've seen this.
It's similar, melted by the earth, but
Splooge.
Well, then, the brother's place. Then, if you've seen this garden was found next to a house that had a crystal in it.
this is where you want to go.
Yes. We have to follow this lead and find the power that we can to fight the creature, right?
It will not be easy.
And where is this place?
Is it easier than a frosted wasteland that fire doesn't burn and ghosts haunt?
Yes.
Difficult in a very different way. Easier to get to physically, Matt, but much harder in other ways.
You will have to make a plea to members of council. They protect this place.
This council, is it like the council of my kingdom? Is it a collection of lords who rule over different tribes?
I do not know what you mean, lords.
I kind of shrug and I say, are there representatives from all of the half-elf tribes?
Chieftains.
Yes.
Chieftain, no, is different. Council members judged by tribe. One from all 6, though, is now 5.
There are 6 tribes or 5?
Were 6 tribes.
John, as a scholar and a traveler, you're, somewhat familiar with some of the tribes and how they work. Definitely news to you that there's not 6 tribes anymore.
Might I ask, what happened to the sixth tribe.
I am not supposed to speak. The council fears. But we say it is Arkdulgrim.
Oh,
What? What do you mean?
This is why you come. Yes? Hoffman? The brethren return? When the tribes falter?
I suppose. Well, maybe not to that end and on my end, but we are here to destroy this creature, to save. I like kind of.
Yes. Get the power.
Get power? No. Vanquish power? Yes.
Well,
No.
What do you mean, no?
Get power. You're not from here.
Correct.
Up here in north, creatures, they have their own magic, as you call it. Power.
Matt, you've mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned actually on an episode, but you're playing a bone crafter ranger, which is one of the few homebrew things I found online that's not completely horseshit, and is actually fucking pretty dope. It involves indeed crafting some of these bones. Are you adorned with any of your kind of talismans or whatever you call them?
Not right now, but while all of this partying was going on and drinking and storytelling, I was sitting in the corner actually doing some scrimshaw on some bones.
Sort of sets one down to illustrate his point.
You see, and the one I set down will have a small set of cat's eyes drawn on them, tall slit pupils, and I will give it to Hoffman. Put on.
He hands you this sculpted piece of bone with these carved out cat eyes with pigment rubbed into them to make them pop out, and you don't even know, like, what do you mean, like, put it on? I don't know.
is there a necklace or?
Hoffman's going native on us. Wonderful.
That is for you. Try.
Try what?
I'll take it out of your hand and take does your coat have any buttonholes or anything like that?
Yeah.
I'll kind of look around, feel around, and then just jam it through one of your buttonholes. And I'll place my hand on it, and you now have dark vision up to 60 feet and advantage on perception checks that rely on sight. Go outside. Tell me what you see.
Everything.
I technically already had dark vision because I was a half elf, but maybe not this half elf. Not the sun. Maybe the sun elves don't.
Let's say the sun elves don't have dark vision.
Yeah, ice elves do, but sun elves don't.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So it is, and probably a wild experience.
I can see the building. This is quite wow. I take out a notebook and I start describing what I'm seeing, just writing it down, just kind of describing the experience of it.
I mean, it's probably like as wild as if you gave VR goggles to someone who had never seen a screen of any kind, never seen a computer, TV, and then you fucking put VR goggles on your head and you're like, this is a way to experience the world?
Great. We'll be able to see the Arctogrim from further away when it kills us. Gentlemen, we must maintain our focus here. We must find crystals that can imbue our weapons with power, or all of these tricks are not going to help.
Yes. I kind of point at the drawing, the architectural drawing. Kieler, if you can get us here, I promise that what we find will not disturb, well, unless we have to maybe dig up a ruin or two, but what is left will just be what the elders built, and we will take some of the Tethazine crystals for ourselves and craft these weapons that we need to destroy the Octogrim, thus completing the prophecy.
Aedric looks towards Avery, thinking of how ludicrous this is starting to sound at the idea that any of these natives are going to let us waltz into their great shelf, if that's the place we're talking about, the brother's place,
Yeah.
and extract crystals, which most likely give them the goddamn power they're using up in there to do their council meetings. So I look towards Avery and I say, do you really think they're going to let us take the crystals? And I look back to Hoffman.
I say I understand your apprehension, Adric, but you have to keep in mind they foresaw us coming, Hoffman specifically, and they sent Kyle to help us.
Sorry, John, take a inspiration for open-minded.
Cool.
They want us to succeed.
Yes.
They will do what needs to be done to help us, and perhaps we need to prove that our intentions do align with theirs, but ultimately they do, don't they? Our intentions are to kill the Octogrim before it kills more of your tribespeople. We're on the same team. This is no different from going into any lord's realm and asking permission to hunt his forest.
This has not been fully openly discussed amongst the council for certain reasons, and it was more just from your tribe for fear of the spread.
I think our next step is to go to this council and ask permission to go to this great cliff. I think once we're there, if everything we've discussed is accurate, we may find a ruin, yes? And with it, more crystals. And for the part of the journey that comes after that, I think those will be an absolute necessity. I think that the vision you've seen, Adric, the peaks with the ghosts and all that, I think that is where we'll find Octogrim. But first we need to arm ourselves.
Indeed.
So to kind of step back a little meta, because you guys are putting together all the pieces, and the one thing that I think I might have skipped over it, but when Matt talked about the sixth tribe, which is Nomas, all right, without actually drawing out a map, think of where you are, Bergen, this island that's to the south of all the other islands of the tribesmen. Tregkulin is to the northwest. The meeting place of the tribes is kind of more straight north. The tribe that's missing, that is gone, is to the northeast. So if as some of Matt's people believe Octogrim is behind it, that would be more likely to be the location. So basically, I'm going to leave it totally, I'll just be kind of transparent. I'm going to leave where it goes up to you guys from here. The idea of this game is going after Octogrim. Going directly after him avoids the most threats, gets right after him, but you're going to be really up against it if you can find him. This place of power, two big threats there. You know, whoever these people are that are after you.
The Great Shelf you're referring to?
The Great Shelf.
Yeah.
Whoever what do we call them?
Zealots.
The Zealots, thank you. Going through the midst of the tribes, you don't know who's a Zealot and who's not. Even Matt, couldn't tell them apart. So that exposes you to the most risk, plus the challenge of convincing the council. But you, Merrick, feel pretty confident that if this is true and those crystals are there, that could greatly power you, especially in creating weapons that could bring serious harm to Octogrim. And Adric's visions to the northwest, not exposed to a lot of threat of the Zealots as much. You're traversing as Kieler can explain some of the harshest terrain and dealing with a place of unknown powers.
I see. So we essentially have three possible locations: the northwest, which is the three mountains that Dean saw;
Tregkulin.
north, which is the shelf where the tribes are; and then northeast, which is we assume where Octogrim is.
The missing tribe, at least, is.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
I did that wrong.
And
Okay.
And the next move will be on you guys. So we're gonna wrap it up here, and we can we'll do a little off session planning, and then we can open it back up with you guys making your decision.
Cool.
All right.
Yes, I'll
Work.
All right. You guys can.
Thanks everyone for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, tell a friend, skywrite in an airplane, whatever. You can find us at nastygrampod.com or facebook.com/nastygram. Intro music by A Wilhelm Scream. Find them on Spotify. Scores by Adrian Vaught Ziegler. Links in the show notes for the YouTube channel. Thanks to LSG Media. We'll see you next time.
What will we all do? All this wasted youth, dreams of fame that will never come true. Spend all our days watching the world fade away, dance until the lights go out.
That's nasty.